Good evening. It's been a while since I uploaded a video, and truth be told, I've just been kind of busy, moved, did some other stuff. Right now, I'm in the comfortable room above my grandmother's garage, so came over here to take care of a few things. But I'm making this video, and obviously you won't know what time it is, but I'll let you know right now that it is roughly 11:20. I don't have a clock or my phone on me right now, but I know it's after 11:11 because when I saw the clock, I said, "Oh, I should probably make a wish." But it is sometime in the evening, well, really the nighttime, and I was talking to my cousin earlier today, and he he sent me a text saying, can you go back to iPhone, or can you return to iPhone, or however he phrased it. He wanted me to switch back to Apple's operating system as opposed to using Android as what I currently use. And I said, "Well, are you going to buy me one?" And he said, "No, but you routinely get new phones all the time anyway, so why would this be any different?" And I said, "Well, why do you want me to switch back to an iPhone?" And he says, "Well, I want to send you a bunch of pictures, and if I send them to you, then they're going to be blurry." And of course, I remember that he also had a WhatsApp account, so I messaged him on WhatsApp, and he sent me some pictures of a nice little event that he was a part of earlier in the day, and it was nice. But what he said, though, I guess the entire interaction, the entire encounter, though, about us being on two separate operating systems and not being able to um, interact with each other in a manner that we should be able to in this year 2023. And before I go any further, I hope by the time I've uploaded this, I've thought on it and I've decided to name the title of this video "Standards Matter," because standards matter. The standards exist, and when companies decide to, I guess, go against the grain because they feel like they have maybe a strategic advantage, or I'd almost say the opposite of a strategic advantage is just locking customers in. And we all know that iMessage locking is real. But again, before I go down that road, something completely unrelated to tech. I was in Lowe's earlier today, and I needed to buy a lock. And I picked up this little guy right here, and I have only once installed a lock, and it was really, I think, just kind of moving some stuff around on the same door. But I wasn't too sure if I bought this brand, if the holes that are currently on the door occupied or were occupied by a lock made by a different brand, would it still work? And the gentleman at Lowe's home improvement store said, yes, it's all the same. So it's all standardized. The hole for a deadbolt is the same whether I use this brand or any of the other brands that I saw on the shelves. So while I was also there, I also picked up one of these guys, and you don't know what it is, and I would have to take a look at it, second guess. But essentially, it's a cover for a light switch. So if you have a switch that you want to have a cover on, and it's usually if you want to keep it in the on or off position without people messing around with it, you buy something like that. And in my situation, I need one of those. But I know that this is going to work, whether it's a dual light switch panel or a tri light switch panel or a single light switch panel. It's going to work because the screws should be directly on top of the switch because there's a standard. I'm in the room, and I this is a little older than I would care to admit, but I was up here and I remembered I bought some oil for my vehicle going on 2 years ago now, so I'm assuming it's still good. But anyway, it's doesn't matter. Well, it's 0W20, but it's Vaseline. But I know that if I buy a different brand, of course I want it to be 0W20, but if I buy a different brand, it's still going to work just fine because I don't want to. It's standardized. I mean, I guess that's the easiest way to put it. In my vehicle, I need this type of oil, but the brands really don't matter as much. Now, some might say one brand is better than the other, so forth and so forth, but there are still standards that involve on this box. And in fact, this is going to be interesting. Hopefully, I can tie this together. But for a while, when I was uploading videos, I was sitting on my bed, or really sitting at a computer desk, and the monitor that I had was sitting on top of a empty modem box. I think it was a Netgear or something. And right now you were sitting on another empty modem box. Actually, I think the modem's still in here, but this is an Asus modem. But they, whether I'm using this one or the Netgear or another one, there are standards that exist that allow me to connect to the internet, and I'm able to use different brands. So if you were watching this video, you were probably connected to a router. Well, you are. And so yeah, oil, standardized for the most part, yes. Different engines require different types or different kinds or whatever the appropriate term is, but you'll be able to get that type from different brands, As I'm looking around the room right here, I'm thinking about everything that I have plugged in, everything that requires electricity. Different brands, different types of products, but they're all able to be plugged into the wall, receive the right voltage or wattage or, whatever the term is. But there are standards in place that allow me to have that shredder plugged in, that lamp plugged in, that heater, that monitor, or whatever that is, that television. They're all able to be plugged in because standards exist. Standards matter. Standards are important. Now, when it comes to technology in the aspect of computers and smartphones and things like that, we have a bunch of standards in place. When you send a text message, SMS, that's a standard that allows you, me, whoever, to send a text message from, your phone to somebody else's phone. Heck, I remember my dad used to send me text messages from his email account while he's sitting at his desk. Like if I was out and about doing something and he wanted to, get in contact with me without having to type something on his phone. And in fact, he might have been sending those before he had a smartphone. So he was, doing what he could using the technology and the standards that exist that allow him to send a text message or an SMS from his actual email account. When you make a phone call, standards are there. So that way it doesn't matter what phone you're using, what operating system, who your service provider is, and let's just keep it, all within, one country, but you're able to talk to different people using different products on different services because standards exist. When it comes to the World Wide Web, yes, you open a web browser of your choice and you're able to navigate to a particular website. Now, I will say sometimes things don't load the way that they should, but as we have progressed in web development, not that I'm a web developer at all, but people used to develop to the browser, which was a bad practice. We want to develop to a standards that way people are able to open any browser and get the same experience. I mean, imagine if, you went to a website on Google Chrome and it was different than Firefox, than Edge, than Safari, and sometimes there are subtle differences, but still, it's in the developer's best interest to make it as universal as possible, so that way when anybody logs into their website or goes to the website, it doesn't matter if they're on a desktop or if they're on a smartphone, they want the overall experience to be relatively the same. Now, speaking of things like that, and I know there are a multitude of other things that I could think about if I, dedicated the time to do so, but I want to tie this back into really why I'm talking about this video or talking about the subject in this particular video, and it's because of what my cousin said. Oh, you need to, well, he didn't say it like that, but in his mind, he's like, you need to buy an iPhone because the messaging experience is better if you and I both have iPhones. Now, I just want you to stop and think about how crazy that actually is, though. For what we're doing and what we are theoretically expecting as a user experience, how insane is that it only works well if we both have the same product. Now, I would say this, okay? I would say this. If we're talking about the experience self-contained, like within one customer, so yes, you have an iPhone, then you have, AirPods. I was thinking earpods. You have the Apple Watch. Like, okay, you as an individual customer, you have multiple products from the same vendor. So fine, I'm okay with that. I mean, yeah, it kind of sucks that some things are limited, but if you happen to stray from the ecosystem for one of your products, but if you are buying their products and you are the customer and that experience is really good for you, but what you are enjoying doesn't affect anybody else, then that is great. But the moment that you start stepping outside and interacting with other people, if their experience, or in this case, your experience is worse because they don't have the same product you have, how is that not bad? And how don't people think that or realize that or protest that this one product, which is really, in my opinion, the only thing that Apple has left that keeps people really locked in, because I know I made a video in the past, about FaceTime kind of being a lock-in thing, which whatever it is now, and the Lightning cable, which it's not like it's a great thing, but if you have Lightning accessories, then you don't want to have to go out and buy new products or new accessories, whatever. But iMessage, like that is Apple's bread and butter. I'll say the iPhone is Apple's bread and butter, and iMessage makes that possible. Without it, it's still a fine product, but I don't want to go down a rabbit hole. But yes, think about that though. And if you're watching this and if you've gotten this far, which few people have, I'd like you, to really think about other products that you have, which I know they exist, so I'm not going to pretend that they don't. But other products that you have that, yes, work fine, and in fact work better when you have multiple products from the same company as one customer, but products that you own that allow you to interact with other people. If your experience is worse, or let me know, is your experience worse if other people don't have the same product as you? I at this point, I've been going off the cuff the entire time, so I'm not really too concerned. And how long has this video been running? I don't know. I thought the little timer thing was on the screen, but I'm sure it is, and I just don't see it. But think about, a while ago with Microsoft Office. For a while, it was only available on PC. And Microsoft made the strategic choice to open it up and allow it on Mac. And I don't know all of the stuff. I'm pretty sure when I was listening to Steve Jobs' book, they talked about it in there. But it's like, all right, we will reach more people if we have a wider user base. Apple did it with the iPod. For a while, it was only limited to the Mac, but they eventually opened it up to Windows. And they knew at that point that they were now exposing themselves to way more customers. And with iMessage, I would say this. I don't pay for apps. I don't. I don't really use my smartphone a lot. I know a lot of people, do in-app purchases, and this, for me, it's a phone that can do some other stuff. So I don't, I buy the phone and that's pretty much it. I pay for Spotify, Hulu, or whatever. But if Apple either, I don't want to, of course, if they ever created an iMessage app, or open the iMessage standard, which that would be the better thing to do in my opinion. But, if they offered an iMessage app that could, serve as your default SMS client as well as interface with the iMessage app on iPhones. And if there was a one-time fee, depending on what it was, I'd be like, you know what? Cool. I'd buy that. If there was a subscription, which is what they probably would do, like $5 a month, I'd think about it. But what? $60 a year to not have an iPhone, but to also get a relatively good messaging experience, even though the messaging experience could be improved without having to adopt an Apple standard, then, I truly consider it. But I know in their mind, they're thinking, well, right now, we would much rather you buy an iPhone than just pay for the app. And for a lot of people, that works. And for a lot of people, once they've purchased the iPhone, yes, they buy the other accessories. That's, part of the revenue. But then they don't leave the ecosystem. So they will then in turn be a repeat iPhone customer. And I don't even really know where I'm going with this, but it's all a plan. And they are, a $3 trillion company. So what they're doing works. But I think what I was going to get at, because I talked about Microsoft, opening, Word, I'll say Office to Mac users, and then Apple opening iTunes and the iPod to Windows users. Okay, but essentially what has happened is Apple and Microsoft back in the day, they developed a product that was really good, and then they decided to either open it with Office and then with iTunes. But with iMessage, Apple is like, well, we know it's really good, and we're not going to open it, so we're going to keep it closed. And I was just thinking, well, imagine if Google decided to say, you know what? Chrome is the world's most popular browser, which it is. Now you can only use Chrome on a Chromebook, or you can only use Google search in Chrome on a Chromebook. Like it's something like that. I mean, that's kind of what iMessage is. iMessage works in iOS on an iPhone. So it would just be it would be interesting if they did that. If Chrome or if Google said, you know what, we're going to lock down Chrome. Chromium is no longer a thing. I know the new Edge is built off of it, and there's probably other browsers out there. Well, and I'm sure there's a way legally they probably could snatch it back up. If they did that, people would be like, whoa, whoa, ho, 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 what's going on here? But Google, I'm not saying they're a great company in terms of ethics or whatever, but it's like, yeah, they just know, just leave it open, okay? Like, there's no reason to make this as confined of a thing as some would want it to be. Or, locking Google search or Chrome behind a paywall. Like, no, they're not going to do that. But, I guess, yeah, I mean, that's pretty much all I wanted to say is there are so many things that we use on a daily basis that either allow us to directly interact with other people or give us the flexibility to pick and choose brands based off of what we want, but gives us the functionality that we need or that we're looking for. And when it comes to this one piece of software, it's not open, and it should be. And I'm not going to get into RCS, which, that would be the alternative, but Apple's definitely not. Well, like I say, definitely, but they aren't going to adopt it anytime soon. Yeah, like it's just, as a consumer, you should be mad. And most people aren't. They blame other consumers for not conforming to what they've conformed to do, which is buy an Apple product. And in my opinion, the iPhone is an okay product, but because it's so locked down and so controlled, it becomes a worse and worse product the more and more I think about it. And I'm not going to say I'm never going to buy another iPhone, because I would not want to say that. But yeah, even thinking about what they're going to be doing supposedly with USB-C, that I know I made a video ranting about, well, what's keeping them from adopting USB-C is so many people are going to say, well, I have this USB-C cable and I have all these other USB-C products, and I can charge all of those products with this cable. However, now my iPhone has USB-C, and I can no longer use this same cable to charge my iPhone. I need to buy an Apple or an Apple certified USB-C cable. And I would hope people would say, like, whoa, wait a minute, like, it looks exactly the same, but Apple is telling me that this cable isn't good enough for their phone, even though, let's say in my situation, I have a OEM Dell charger, an OEM Lenovo charger. Those chargers aren't good enough to charge the iPhone. Like, that's absolutely preposterous. But there are going to be people who continue buying that garbage. And now, yeah, I am getting frustrated, because if that does happen and Apple puts their little chip inside of their USB-C cable to make it, part of the MFI program, and third-party vendors have to pay Apple now, like, they should just say, screw it. All right? We make a USB-C cable. It's a good cable. It works on 99% of other products. We're not going to make a separate one just for the iPhone. But I know they will. But that would be a solid, what's the word I'm looking for? A unified protest against a company that is just doing too much. Just doing too much. And if nobody made third-party USB-C cables that were MFI approved or compatible or whatever the term is, maybe Apple would get the picture and say, you know what? We don't really need to do this. And in fact, yes, they can do whatever with the cables they make. And in my situation, yes, having OEM cables that are from reputable companies, would definitely work with, or should work with an iPhone. Heck, I charge my MacBook with them, so I don't see why an iPhone wouldn't be able to be charged with it. But yeah, they should just say, well, yeah, we'll do what we want to do. And if people start plugging, iPhones in with bad cables, and the bad cable somehow fry their phone, then that's their fault for using a cheap cable. But don't make it so that you have to buy MFI approved USB-C cables. Like, that's just stupid. And then even then, it's like, well, if that happens for the iPhone, are you now telling me that my MacBook cable is not going to be good enough for the iPhone? Because even though, it's an OEM cable and an OEM charger, I know that there's firmware in some of the crap. I mean, I think the MagSafe cable just got a firmware update. So I don't know if there's firmware in there that could. I don't know. But if there isn't, and somehow I'm told that my MacBook cable is not good enough to charge an iPhone, how would consumers need to say, what's going on here? Like this is really getting out of hand. I mean, I have to buy Apple everything for Apple stuff to work. And not only that, if other people don't have Apple stuff, then my experience is going to be degraded. Maybe I should consider looking at, unfortunately, there's only one other competitor, but yeah, maybe I should start looking at the competition. So yeah, I love my cousin. I really do. And I know he was joking. And in fact, like he was sending me some text and we got on the phone and I said, I'm gonna get off the phone before I start ranting because I'm going to. And I talked for a brief moment, pretty much, this in a 35-second brief. Um, people just say, hey, this is not good. Okay, this is not good. So on that note, I'm going to let it go. I'm going to continue looking at all the products that aren't made by the same company but work well with the outlets that are in these walls or the laptops that I have that allow me to send people emails, that allow me to log into various websites. I mean, just think, okay? Like right now, I'm looking at a Dell laptop. On that laptop, there is a Microsoft operating system, okay? My main browser that I use is Safari, all right? I have a Gmail account that I'll log into. Like see how many different companies, whatever internet service provider that we have here, Spectrum. Yeah, so Spectrum is the company that allows me to connect to the internet. There's well, I'm using the Spectrum router, so whatever brand that is, but see like how many companies are involved in making things work. I'm talking to you right now on a Sony camera, and it's yeah, that's how the world gets better. Okay, all right, I need to stop because you can tell I get pretty passionate about this, but I'm passionate one because I care about it. Two, I think it's pretty cool, but three, there are so many people who just choose to ignore what is factually in front of them. Oh, there's a little timer. We're at 17 minutes. So this is going to be probably a 30-minute video. But the last thing that I'll say, is like I'm 34. My cousin is 6 years younger than that. 28. And, I'm working with a lady who is, I don't know how old she is, but I'm assuming she's a little older than me. She has kids who are, I think, in their 20s. But she looks good for, whatever age she is. But she said she was she said she was an Android user for a while. And at one point, she got an iPhone, and since then she's like, yeah, I'm not going back. And she even, kind of jokingly, but truthfully said, like, she was like, yeah, I can tell, like, oh, people text me now, I'm like, oh, you got an Android, but that's, a common thing. And it's, people of all ages are subject to that way of thinking that I guarantee you, if, in fact, like I know, the lady, she drives a Toyota. If I said, okay, you need some new tires. The only way you can get new tires, you got to go to Toyota. You need some gas. The only way you get some gas is if you go to Toyota. You need an oil change. Got to go to Toyota. You need, I don't know, to change the light bulbs in your turn signals. Got to go to Toyota. Okay, and that's part of the right to repair movement, how Apple's controlling all that. But just think about like interoperability. Like, okay, in order to drive it, you need gas. Got to go to Toyota. That like allowing you to use the vehicle to get on the road to travel. You got to go through Toyota. In order to go anywhere, Toyota has laid some roads, and those roads take you where Toyota wants you to go. So, and it doesn't make sense hearing it. But when we think about the iPhone, there are so many things that go on with it that people just don't think twice about. But if something was that locked down in other industries, you'd be like, oh, I don't want to have to go through Toyota for everything. I don't want to have to go through the person that built this house to do anything to the house. I don't want to have to, I don't know, go through Microsoft for literally everything that I do that involves that computer. I put a new SSD in there. Well, not that machine. I have another machine over another Dell. But yeah, I didn't have to go through Dell to put a different SSD in there. So All that to say, if you've made it this far, which I know most people will, just think about how much control Apple has over your life. And think, would you be that okay with another industry, in another industry, if another company, or I'll say another aspect of your life, if another company had that much, would you be as comfortable if another company in another industry had as much control over your life as Apple does?